you still should believe and have the tenacity and the resiliency to believe that it is possible. Sometimes it takes a minute, but your time will come. Just keep on doing the work and keep on putting in the blood, sweat, and tears.
You look crazy until you make the shit happen. Hey, welcome to the BeMoHappy Show, the podcast that's all about boosting your happiness and helping you navigate life's challenges. I'm your host, Morris Mo Chaisson, and I'm excited that you're here and being a part of this new season, Resilience Revolution. We'll be deep diving into the power of resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks, adapt to change, and thrive in the face of adversity. It's time to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth and unlock your inner strength. We will be joined by experts, thought leaders, and everyday heroes who have faced life's curveballs head on and came out stronger. Together, we'll explore practical strategies, share inspiring stories, and equip you with tools not just to survive, but to thrive in the midst of life's storms. So whether you're going through a tough time, seeking personal growth, or just looking for a daily dose of inspiration, join us in Resilience Revolution. Get ready for a season of empowerment, insight, and a whole lot of joy. This is the BeMoHappy Show. The Resilience Revolution starts now. How'd you get into like the talking and speaking stuff, Megan?
So I got into motivational speaking when I was 18 years old. I was living in LA and I knew my passion was speaking and storytelling, and I just knew that I didn't want to go to college. So like I said, told my parents one day, I was like, Mom and Dad, I'm not going to college, but I want to really be motivational speaker. That's what's in my heart and what I know to be true. And they were like, thankfully my parents are very open-minded people. They're very spiritual, and they are, you could say aliens exist, and they were like, cool, tell us about it. Like, they're very fun and they're cool. Very forward thinking. So they were like, okay, we'll support you. You're 18 for 1 year. And if by 19, you can't get it together, then you're on your own. I was like, okay, cool. I've got this. So I was in LA, just a bright-eyed 18-year-old, so young and oblivious to the world. And those years, when I look back on it, I look back so fondly because I did not have much money, no, but I believed in myself. You know what I mean? Like, I was literally anywhere I could speak, I just made it happen. And I think that motto has propelled my success of just making it happen, like no excuses. And I remember so vividly, working crazy jobs of like being a waitress. I had one job where I had to clean toilets. Like, I did it all. And I had another job where I had to mop after hot yoga classes with all the sweat. It's 100 degrees in there. I had to mop the whole floor after each class. I'm so glad that I never gave up, because those jobs, it's like wax on, wax off, right? Like the Karate Kid, he's like in the movie in the 80s, he's like, Mr. Miyagi, I want to learn karate. And he's like, no, just focus on cleaning the car. And he's like, why am I doing this? But little does he know, right? In the moment, all those things are teaching him to be the best fighter. And then he wins the championship and he's a legend for forever. I chose to view all of these jobs, whether it's cleaning toilets, standing behind a gym front desk for 12 hours, dealing with, phone calls, people throwing towels. I mean, you have to be able to stay calm under pressure, handle all different types of personalities. Instead of focusing, because thoughts are powerful, instead of focusing on like, oh, poor me, no, we don't do that. That's not how I was raised. I always say, like, this is happening for me. What's the bigger picture? This is preparing me. So, maybe when I'm a speaker one day, I will have to, know what it takes to be able to stand on my feet for 12 hours. I would use anything to just reframe. And the moment you flip your thoughts, right? Instead of being like, oh, this job, it's like, wait, reframe. Maybe though, when I'm a speaker one day and I'm, at seminars and conventions, I'll have to stand for 12 hours and walk around all the time. This is preparing me for that. I would do that 1,000 times a day, over and over and over again. And if you watch any interview with any successful person, they will say the same exact thing. All they do is manifest, reframe, pivot, flip their thoughts, because thoughts create feelings and feelings create habits and behaviors. So if you're thinking like everything's happening for me, this is a good learning experience, it's shaping me into the person that I'm meant to become, you'll feel good. And then when you feel good, you're likely to take positive action, because it's like that on a recycled trash can, right? It's like a triangle. Thoughts create feelings, feelings create habits and behaviors. So it all starts up in the thoughts. I'm grateful because, like I said, it's all happening for you, not to you. These jobs, I can look back, years later. And I'm just like, those were the best jobs ever, because it really did give me that, like, the experience of what it does really take to be speaking on stage in front of thousands of people. And you have to stay calm under pressure. You have to be able to stand on a stage for hours, and you have to be able to handle a lot. But those jobs were so the wax on, wax off thing. Like, I'm like, why am I doing this? Folding towels. What is this doing? It's all teaching you the work ethic, the character, the resiliency, the ability to just stay. It's all teaching you those things. So I'm grateful for that.
That is so cool. I love everything you just said, because
Yeah.
it's that journey, it's not always the destination that's the best part, right? It's the
Yeah.
journey getting to that destination that makes it fucking amazing.
It's true. And I think, I may sound like a broken record, but truly my upbringing, I got so lucky. My parents are like the best people ever. My dad and I are close, but my mom and I are like really, really close. Like our personalities work so well together. I sometimes call her my Kris Jenner, my momager, because she puts fire under my butt. She's hilarious. She's 60 years old, but she's just like, Megan, go. She's like, what are you waiting for? And I feel grateful, because I know I need that. And my parents just instilled so many affirmations in me of like, you can do it. It's all happening for you, not to you. It's always serving a bigger purpose. And one thing that my mom did tell me was, she's like, if someone tells you no, Megan, meaning you get rejected from a modeling agency, a PR person, a manager, and I've had tons of rejection. And in this industry, you will get rejected up the wazoo, front, back, sideways, to the point where you question, like, am I, pretty or a person? It's hard, but I've been rejected more times than I can ever count. And my mom always told me, she was like, Megan, if someone tells you no, you're talking to the wrong person. And I was like, wow. And she told me that. She was like, don't take it personally. It's just a business. And when you view it with a business lens of like, it's just a industry, it has nothing to do with you personally, that helped me detach a little bit from it. And I was like, I'm not taking it, so personally of like, oh gosh, it's because I'm a size this. It's like, no. It's just an industry, the entertainment world, the modeling world. It has nothing to do with you personally. Like, please don't take it personally. And so I just feel grateful. And so I think my career, I owe so much of it to my mindset and the way I view the world. And I think also just my upbringing. I think it really it was like the foundation of a house, right? It just shapes the house into how it stands. And I think I would not be who I am without like a lot of things, but I also will say I would not be who I am without the rejection. I mean, rejection is hard, but if you have the mindset where you flip it and you view it as like it's happening for you, not to you, and what is this teaching me in this moment, you're set for life. Like, I feel your feelings, of course, get sad. Like, I have had many days where I have a whole playlist that I play when I'm sad. It's filled with Barry Manilow and like all these 80 love ballads. And I will play it and I'll feel so sad. But like, I always bounce back though to this optimistic mindset of like, yeah, but I've come too far just to come this far. And I think I would know by now that everything is always really happening for me. To me, it's just a reminder that just because you're being rejected, it does not mean you're on the wrong path. And sometimes, like, when you do get rejected, you immediately are like, oh, it's about me, right? You're like, I'm unworthy and this idea is so stupid, and you shut down. But that's just not true. It's like, you still should believe and have the tenacity and the resiliency to believe that it is possible. Sometimes it takes a minute, but your time will come. Just keep on doing the work and keep on putting in the blood, sweat, and tears. And to me, I always tell myself, just remind myself of stories like that, where it's like, you never know what can happen, and you just got to keep on going and keep on believing. And I also think for me, it's like, there's no other way I'd want to live my life. Like, I wouldn't want to be in any other job. I would never be in a 9-to-5. My personality type, sitting in a cubicle, it wouldn't work. I have too much ADHD for that. So I don't know. So I always tell myself that story, but I think it's just such a cool reminder that, you never know what can happen in life. So
that is so true, especially whenever you're on that venture like that, where you're constantly, exploring, because you just never know. But all those jobs were helping to build you to the person that you are now.
They
right?
were. Mm-hmm. And it's like I feel grateful because one of my favorite words is hindsight. And like in hindsight, when you've made it and you can look back, hindsight's when you're reflecting. In hindsight, I'm really, really glad that those jobs I had them because they really did prepare me for what it really takes to run your own business, the hustle, the grind. And there are glamorous moments, but a lot of it is just the grind. I mean, there's no denying it. You have to work your butt off. And still, even at 28 years old, there's still days where I'm up till 2 a.m. sending emails. Like, that's just what it takes. So you have to be in it for the right reasons. And I always say this, you have to know your why. What is your why? To me, my why is I want to change the public school system across the US. I never want any student to feel how I felt when I was younger. And I always want to give a voice to the voiceless. And I want to incorporate mandatory mental health classes in high schools all over the US. And to me, that's what I want to accomplish in my lifetime. Like when I pass away one day, that's the legacy I want to live. I want to leave is I changed the public school system and made the next generation talk about mental health and feel less alone. And I really like left a mark in history. And to me, it drives me because I see how much depression, anxiety, all that stuff affects students everywhere. The stigma doesn't even really exist in 2024. It's become so normal and almost trendy, but more normal to talk about anxiety or medication, and there is no taboo. Like in the 1960s, if you said you had anxiety, you were like beaten. You know what I mean? If you were a guy that talked about feelings, yeah, no. If you were a guy that said you were gay, yeah, no, that doesn't exist. You're crazy. It's just wild to see the transformation and the growth over 50 plus years as a whole, as you know, the US, how far we've come with talking about things, being open, being inclusive, and accepting people for who they are and not discriminating. And it's just really powerful. It's empowering. So I feel grateful though, because I feel grateful that I have a voice and that I always use it, and I use my platform online to really be a leader and to be the person that I've always want to become. And that's something that I pride myself on a lot, is even when I myself, because I'm still a human, some people think, oh my gosh, Megan, your life is always together and you always look this way. And I'm like, far from the truth. I'm still a 28-year-old girl that goes through stuff. Are you kidding? Like my love life is in shambles. Hello? Like I can't get a guy to like, oh, like there's things that, it's being a human. Hello, we all have stuff. But on days when I don't feel like my best self, I always write on my hand right here. I'll write with a marker in the morning, future self. To me, that's a visual reminder just throughout the whole day. Feelings come and go. Okay. Any smart person knows that emotions are temporary. They come and they go. So if you're feeling tired or you're mad about a guy not texting you back, whatever, that's temporary. That doesn't last for forever. But what does last for forever is the legacy that you leave and the efforts you're making towards your future self. So to me, this reminder writing on my wrist is just like focus back, eyes on the prize. Like, you know where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years. Just focus on that. I'm relentless, right? If I want to have a career, similar to other women in my industry, like E! News, Sports Illustrated, and I want all of that, boom, my eyes are focused on only creating solutions towards that and focusing on that. And I always say, your future self will just thank you that you didn't give up in the challenging times and you stayed strong and you were resilient in your belief and you still put your best effort in every workout, eating healthy meals, doing the thing, taking any job, just hustling, right? That's what it takes, what it takes. And so, yeah, I think it's always just focus on your future self. If you feel like today feels so heavy and you're dealing with personal stuff, all of that, it ebbs and it flows though. It doesn't last for forever. Your future self is where you should be focused on. You know what I mean? Like where you want to be, that will motivate you.
Yeah. Megan, that's one of my big goals too, is to have a school like where, like I don't run a school, but somebody else runs a school. But basically I wanted to like teach spirituality where like,
I love that.
about yoga, exercise, magnifying the kids' strengths and teaching about their feelings, their emotions, and how to handle it, and just magnify them, be who they are, and just I don't know, be the best that they could be at it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's but I feel like there's baby steps that I want to take to get to that point. You know what I mean? There's a couple other things I want to do first. So
I love that. And it's true. It's like, I always say to myself, if you're feeling really anxious about your goals, it's probably because you're focused on the macro, right? Which is like, imagine if I'm at the base of Mount Everest and I'm climbing it. If I looked at the whole mountain, I would be overwhelmed because I'm like, where do you start? This is too big. That's the macro. You're thinking too bigly, too largely, and you don't even know where to start. You got to shrink it down to micro. And every time you shrink it down to micro, you're like, okay, right? So base camp to camp 1 to camp 2, that's the micro. And sometimes in life, you'll have to switch from macro vision to micro. It's just whatever helps you be more successful and productive. And that's what a lot of successful people do is take it step by step. How do we get from base camp to camp 1 to camp 2, step by step by step? And then pretty soon you'll be at the summit and you're like, oh, we did it. All because I took it step by step, day by day. What is step number 1 of how we get to where we want to be? All that stuff. And sometimes, yeah, it's like when you think about the whole picture, let's say, for example, I want to have a career like Jamie Kern Lima or, Mel Robbins or any other speaker, TV host, Maria Menounos, whoever. If I think about the whole thing, that's way too macro. I'm going to get overwhelmed because I'm going to be like, well, how do I get there? It's like, but stop, go back down to micro, step by step by step. Reach out to people on LinkedIn. Where's your speaker reel? Do you post consistently? Do you go to networking events? Are you living in a big city where there's red carpets and premieres and things where you can get affiliated and network? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? It's like, there's so many ways to go about it. And what I love about 2020, are you posting on TikTok? Because also on TikTok, you can go viral, which is really cool because your whole career can change. And that's one thing that I love about 2024 is times are different. It's not like the late 90s, early 2000s, where if you're in the entertainment world, you need a manager and an agent. Times are different. It's way more open. Like you could go viral on TikTok and boom, you're a celebrity. Like things are just different. So all the rejection that I faced in the early years, it really did motivate me. And I also, I said before, but I wouldn't be the person that I am without the rejection. It does serve a purpose. And I think it just, even like the modeling world, like I've always had dreams of being in Sports Illustrated, but half of the models, what I love about Sports Illustrated is they really represent all body types, heights, and weight, and it does not matter. And you don't really need the typical old-fashioned like agent manager. Like you can go to their open casting calls. You can do their swim search online, submit yourself, and then you can be picked as a rookie. And so I've done that 2 years in a row, and it's really fun because you get to like join their app and network with other models that want to be in the magazine. And for 3 years in a row, I've gone to their magazine launch party at the Hard Rock Hotel in Hollywood, Florida, every May. Because in May, Sports Illustrated, that's when they launch their issue, and they do a whole press tour from New York, Miami to LA. And they always stay at the Hard Rock Hotel. So they start off in New York, do their press loop, then Miami, and then LA. And when I lived in Miami, I would go all the time, just any chance I got. And it was so special and so powerful because I got to meet MJ Day, the editor-in-chief, who is the kindest human ever, lovely. She was just such a wonderful person. And I always say this, as someone who has faced a lot of rejection and, just being it, when you're told, you're not enough, whatever, over and over and over again, it really starts to form a story, right? Like a negative story. And then you start telling yourself like, oh, I'm always the girl that's never makes it or never does that. And it's hard because when you're told something over and over and over again, it's hard to not believe it or to not succumb to it. And so I think a really healing moment in my career was going to my first Sports Illustrated runway show at the Mondrian Hotel in South Beach, Miami, during Miami Swim Week, which is like Fashion Week in New York, but only swimwear in Miami 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. I was living in Nashville and I got invited to go to the South Beach, the swim party, to just host the red carpet. And it was a crazy opportunity that I totally manifested. And someone reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, you do freelance TV hosting. Why not come? And I was like, okay. So I did, and it was the best day ever. I was so like kid in a candy store, because just to see all these girls in person, right? Like these models that I've looked up to for years, and just it was so surreal. I have still mental screenshots from that day. And one of the coolest moments ever was MJ Day, the editor in chief, who is, like I said, the kindest human ever. So I walked up to her and I was like, MJ, can I take a selfie with you? And she was like, sure. And she's like, what's your name? Or she's like, what's your name? And I'm like, oh, I'm Megan. And she's like, oh, I know who you are. And I was like, what?
Wow.
And she
Yeah,
was like,
that's
yeah,
cool.
you're Megan. She's like, you've been DMing me on Instagram every week for the past 5 years. And I was like,
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
yeah, that's me. Yeah, I am that psycho. Yeah, that's me. And she's like, oh my gosh, it's so great to meet you in person. I'm like, yeah. And she was like, I was like, this is so wild being here. I don't even know how I feel. And she looked at me and she was like, it was the cutest. She was like, Megan, you've always belonged. And I was like, wow. And just, it really, having MJ Day, the editor in chief of Sports Illustrated, who's so powerful and so poised and lovely, for her to tell me that, I feel like it just healed years of being rejected and being told I don't belong. And also to be around all of these, like A-listers, like the real deal people, for her to look at me and just be like, you're worthy and you do belong. I was like, wow. I mean, it was like a lightning bolt went through my soul and I was never the same. And that whole night, I remember looking out because it's, I was hosting the carpet before the runway show and then on the runway show, and then the after party. I remember during the after party, I was looking out across the bay in Miami and all the lights are twinkling. And if you've ever been to South Beach, it's so beautiful. And I was looking out at the bay and just in that moment, I felt fully, I was like, I do belong. Like something just flipped in my brain because the rest of the night, I was walking around meeting like pro NFL players, like Larry English, his wife, Nicole English, who's a model. I was meeting so many TikTok stars, really famous people, and they all were like, "What's up, Megan?" Like they knew who I was. And words will never explain
that's
how I
cool.
felt. I felt like I finally had arrived. And that moment is like, I want to write a book about it actually, because that moment was so special and beautiful because, like I said, as someone who has faced so much rejection and felt so not good enough, and just all these people to be like, oh yeah, Megan, I know you. You're the mental health speaker. I follow you. I love your stuff. I was like, what? Like, really? Like, people know who I am. I
That's so
finally
cool.
felt validated, and I felt like my heart expanded. And so I actually, on my vision board, I'm a big vision board person in my bedroom. I have one of the covers from another Sports Illustrated party. I got it signed by MJ, the cover of the magazine, and it says, Megan, never forget your superpower. And I was like, wow, that's such a good reminder. So it's on my vision board. And when I'm having hard days or, whatever life, I always look at that and I'm like, never forget your power. Like you are so much stronger than any obstacle and you can face anything, and it just, never forget your abilities to overcome or to bounce back, whatever it is. So that's a story that I love to tell, though, of just meeting MJ. And she was like, you belong. And I was like, wow, this is a
Yeah,
cool
it's big,
moment.
man. And
Yeah.
it's cool because having that signed picture, like you just said, like you could all like that low day comes and you look at that and you remind yourself and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's,
I love that
yeah,
for you.
it's very, very beautiful. And I feel so grateful to still go to those events, Sports Illustrated. All these people have such similar things in common. And it really comes down to, they just kept going and they kept on believing in the bigger picture, and they just pivoted, adjusted, were flexible, and then they kept on going over and over again.
Yeah, that's facts. It's funny because I was talking to my wife the other day. We was watching this documentary about this crazy doctor, deaf doctor, whatever. And this one guy like knew the truth. Like this guy, the doctor was killing people, right?
Yeah.
And this guy was like trying to let people know, like, this motherfucker's not good. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's killing people, whatever. But he looked like the crazy person because everybody believed so much in that doctor.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So like, but
Yeah.
the point is, like, you look crazy until you make the shit happen. You know what I mean?
It's
And it's
true. You'll be
mhm.
tested a lot, but I do think those tests are really for your best good because it will push you, but you also have to realize at that level, like whatever level you want to achieve, but like let's say you want to become, the next like Oprah, the next big thing. You have to realize though, even when you are at that level or you have made it, it's like you still have to deal with other people's opinions. Just because
Yeah.
you have a nicer seat on the plane and you can buy first class seats doesn't mean that it's less work. No, you still have to work really hard. You still have to show up, deal with online haters. So to me, I always say it's all preparing me for that because the work will never end. The all that stuff will just only get bigger and longer and larger, but it's all preparing you for that. You know what I mean? And I also think when you have other people's opinions and other people want to, hate on you, it kind of means you're doing something right. I think sometimes we can associate like, oh, it must mean I'm doing something wrong or I should be quiet and sit small. It's like, no, 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 no. Like if people are telling you, you can't be a model, you can't do this, pipe down, who are you? Who do you think you are? It's like, you're
Right.
probably doing something really good in the world, so keep going. You know what I mean?
Because
Like,
people are
yeah, keep
intimidated
doing
by
you
that.
because people are hating and it's like who cares? It means they're still your fan. If they're still watching your stuff, thanks for supporting my career. Thanks for
Right.
taking time out of your day to like my photos cuz hey, you're supporting my engagement by commenting. It's like it blows my mind when people who are haters or whatever, they still watch your stuff and they follow you cuz I'm like you're still supporting my career and you're helping me get to where I want to be. So whether you like it or not, I think you're a fan. I'm like,
So
the lines
true.
are being blurred right now. What are you? Like,
Right. It's so true.
just wild.
It's almost like they have like a love-hate type relationship with you, because
They do. And I think the best word I can use is people get triggered. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
trigger to me is it's just people that are really triggered by what you're doing because there's something in them that gets so emotionally charged up for a reason. There's a reason they're
Right.
leaving those comments, and it has nothing to do with you. It's all projection, and it's unhealed people bleed out onto other people. It's just the truth. Because if you notice, every person that's doing more than you financially, anything more than you, all the people that you look up to would never leave a comment like that. Why? Because they're doing what they love and they're happy in their life and they're fulfilled. And when you're
Yes.
happy and fulfilled, you don't leave nasty comments. It's only people that are doing less than you, insecure, never left the hometown. You know what I mean? It's just the truth. It's always people that are very deeply insecure that think it's cool to leave a nasty comment behind a screen. I'm reminded that what other people say and think has nothing to do with me, and I just don't care. So,
Megan, you are so wise for like a
yeah.
28-year-old. Like, so you must have gone through some tough times, kind of, because I feel like me personally, and this is just because of me and my story and where I'm at now, but I feel
Yeah.
like you have to go through hard shit and a bunch of adversity to be that aware and
Yeah.
that much of knowing of yourself.
Yeah, I think really pain and trauma, painful moments, traumatic times, hard times are a catalyst for change. I always say if there was no pain in life, there would be no change because if I look back at my life, some of the biggest transformational years of my life were also filled with some of the biggest pain and like heartbreak and dealing with breakups, but that it propels you to the next level of yourself. You like grief, I will say also the death of a loved one, grief is such a complex emotion. There's so many layers to it, but no one could ever tell me that grief is not one of the most transformational things to go through. And to me,
Hmm.
it's hard, but I kind of love it because in the depth of the pain and all that stuff, you become like you are forever changed in a crazy way because it is just a catalyst for so much change. You are a new person on the other side of difficult times.
Something. Have you ever heard of Bob Proctor? A
I
chance?
love
He
Bob
was.
Proctor. Yes.
I kind of figured you did just by the way you talk. Bob Proctor mentioned something. Spirit's purpose is always just for growth and expansion, right? And
It is.
that's.
Yeah,
But it's funny you mentioned that earlier about how grief changes a person, basically.
it does. Grief. Yeah, it does.
Because my mom passed away in 2017,
Mm.
and I ended up like starting a sales career in 2017, and it was a whole different animal from where I was before. Because
Mm-hmm.
before I was into the machine shop,
Mm.
and I don't know, like it just changed my whole life, my whole trajectory, and I feel like we don't lose anything. It's just replaced. The loss of my mom and the gain of a whole new career. I hate to say this. It sounds
No, say
morbid.
it though, because it's
In a
probably
sense,
true.
it was like a trade. You know what I mean? I don't
It
know.
was,
And
yeah.
it brought me to where I'm at now and where I'm
Yeah.
building to go, you know? So,
And one thing I've realized too, Mo, just to comment on what you said, is there's no right or wrong way to grieve, right? To grieve is just to grieve. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And however you're doing it is perfect. You're doing a great job. And that's one thing a therapist told me where I was like, wow, that makes me feel a lot better. There's no guide, for dummies 101 guide of how to grieve. It's not linear. Life is not linear. It's up, down, sideways, backways, and then,
absolutely.
you hit 90 years old. Life is just that's how life is. So, grief I've realized can come in different forms. It's not just when you lose a loved one. Grief can happen when you move to a new city because grief is just, you're longing for something that is not here but once was here. That's what grief is. It can be a
Right.
person moving to a new city, a romantic relationship. It can be grieving a job that you don't have anymore. Grief is just a lot of nostalgia, basically, and you're longing
Yeah.
for, yeah, something that's not physically here. Losing family, friends, and just loved ones. The grief was really difficult. And I remember it would come in waves. One day, I'm feeling fine. And because in grief, there's typically 7 stages of grief. There's first your initial shock, and then it's denial, bargaining, anger, rage, and then like acceptance and moving on. There's like literally 7 stages of grief. One thing I will say is my faith is what gives me strength. Like, I'm a very spiritual person. That's how I grew up. Not everyone agrees with it, but it's what brings me peace. And I think everyone should just do what makes them feel great and what can give you joy and closure. I think when you die, you separate from your ego, your human self, and you just go up into your essence, your soul. Because I do think we are a soul having a human experience, right? Where, like, I may be a girl named Megan in this lifetime, but I think my soul is like beyond that. You know what I mean? Like, it may sound a little too woo woo, but bear with me. But I do
No,
think
no, I'm
when
with
we
you.
die, we separate from our physical body, obviously, and our
Yeah.
ego, but then we ascend to like another level of just another dimension, the afterlife. And I think when we die, I've heard that you watch your life like you're in a movie theater, you watch your whole life in review, like a movie, from the day that you're born till the day that you die. You get to see how your actions made other people feel, the repercussions, the good stuff, the bad stuff, what would have happened if you would have stayed in this city or dated this person. It's really so your soul can get closure over everything and what was your main lessons that you were supposed to learn in this lifetime as a soul. And then basically you move on, you transcend to a different dimension. And then I think, energy is still energy. Like, I think a soul is still a soul, and I've had many moments where I feel like my friends are visiting me or I get a sign from them, and once again it's always very positive. It's always like, we love you and we're cheering you on and we see the good that you're doing and keep going. And it's always
Love
very
that.
positive and warm and very cool. So I do believe, and this is just my faith, not everyone agrees with it, but I do believe that, like, they're not in pain and they're not suffering. I don't believe that that happens. I think they're all very much at peace, and suffering is also, it's a human thing. That's what I've come to learn is suffering. And this is just, once again, this is my belief from my own life experiences and what I believe. You don't have to agree with it, but I do think that suffering is a choice, just like you choose to be happy one day. And I
I
think hard
agree.
times are hard. Don't get me wrong. I've been through hard
Hmm.
stuff. Oh, cry, feel your feelings. Sometimes life is very difficult. But I do believe that suffering is a choice just as much as choosing to be happy is a choice. I think suffering, if you choose to suffer, you're choosing that. It doesn't matter what your external reality is. You could choose to be happy also. It's just a choice. And
Yeah.
so I
Wow.
think suffering is just such a human thing. And I think on the other side, I mean, they don't have an ego. So they're more of like a soul. So, I don't think that they experience ego human stuff, but I don't
Hmm.
know. So
I got
that's my thought on it. But long story short, I think, my, like, the people that I've lost, of course, sometimes, yeah, grief is hard. I still have days where I feel really sad, and it makes me feel so sad that someone so young passed. It's very hard, but I always come back to, focusing on the good times, and I always come back to believing that they're not in pain. And that was just their time to go. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't think there's any other way about it. I think regardless of age and stuff. It can be hard when they're young, but I think that's just their soul kind of chose that, you know, and like a
Yeah.
bigger picture, they just, that's their time and they chose that. And we all have an expiration date. We all have a day when we'll pass on this earth, but you know, it's just you have to live life to the max and you have to live it for yourself and leave a good legacy and follow your dreams. And, you know, that's like a life well lived. So
You're a cool person, Megan. Like
thank you.
amazing person. Like
Appreciate it.
really,
Thank you.
I'm with you. That adventure of life and grief, but like the way I look at grief now is I don't let grief bother me at all. Like the
Yeah.
loss of my mom, that was the hardest thing I went through in my life. The hardest thing. But now I realize that she was here and she molded me to be the man that I am now. And she was here during that time and she served her purpose. And now she's
Yeah.
going back home, you know, like she's still with us, you know what I'm saying? But she's
Of course.
just not physically with us. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
they're still there, but it's just not maybe the physical humanness
yeah.
that we're used to. But I think, you know, energy is still energy, frequency is still frequency. So I do believe that a soul is still a soul and it carries on long into the afterlife. And you know, it's like it's just yeah, it's a part of the human experience. We get to be a human for a little bit and then one day we all have like I said, an expiration date. We all have a time when we go to another dimension, whatever you want to call it, afterlife,
Hmm.
just a different place. And then we experience different stuff. So, you know, that's what I believe. And I don't believe they're in pain. And I don't believe that suffering happens on the other side. I think suffering
Hmm.
is something that happens on earth.
Hmm. That look, that's so funny you say that because I feel like in religion, like that heaven and hell, right? I feel like
Yeah.
we create that by, like you just said earlier, our
Yeah.
choices. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be miserable, that's your fucking
It's
hell.
a choice. It's a
If you want to
choice,
be happy and optimistic,
just like what outfit you choose to wear every day. If you choose to be miserable, that's great. You're creating that. You're in that self-fulfilling prophecy, and I hope that you're happy with that because you could also, I mean, some people baffle me. Just, I mean, I'm 28, but like, you know, some people walk, there's two types of people on this earth, right? Some are like, oh, it's a blue sky, everything's great. Those are like energy givers. They're high vibrational, they're amazing. And then there's energy, you know, takers who are just like, oh, they look for every cloud in the sky and they're like, oh, these are the cards. You know, literally their energy is like,
pessimistic
their
as
energy
fuck.
is hunchy. They're like, oh, these are the cards I was dealt and poor me and I'm always going to be like this. That's not true. If you're one of those people watching this, change your damn life. You can still change. I don't buy the whole, oh, I have to be this way. No, you don't. You're telling yourself that,
Right.
it's not always been you, by the way. We were all born a clean slate. Anything's possible. It's just the household you grew up in, the conditioning, the shapings. Maybe you grew up with abuse or addiction. That just kind of molded you into being negative and to viewing the world with that. That's not who you are though. That may have happened to you, but it's not you though. And you can still change. You can still be different. And if you don't believe that, then you should go to a Tony Robbins seminar and change your life because anything is possible. It's just all we have from our childhood that literally shapes our brain, reinforcement loops, positive and negative, reinforcing behavior and patterns. We have stories and beliefs about money, what's possible, love, what I can achieve in this lifetime, and that shapes you into who you are. And also, I think when people like one of my favorite stories is Dr. Wayne Dyer, who passed away unfortunately, but Wayne Dyer was a huge self-help guru, one of the greats. His story is incredible. He grew up with a really, if I'm remembering correctly, either alcoholic father, something really difficult. His dad passed, and he was carrying so much anger towards his father. Like literally, I'm not kidding, he would go like, I think like go pee on his grave, just like, I hate you, so much anger towards this man. But something one day hit him and he was like, wait, by carrying all of this anger toward, like, what is this doing for me? It's like me drinking poison, expecting him to, but he's not suffering. I'm the only one that's suffering. And when we have that epiphany every day of you realizing people may do shitty things to you, okay, that's awful. It still hurts. But if you're thinking ill about them and being like, you know, I hate that person and what they did to me, it's only affecting you. Do you realize that? It's like you're having a little dark cloud over your head they could be living their best life. You're drinking poison, somehow expecting them to telepathically suffer. That doesn't happen. It's only affecting you, and you're only manifesting what you don't want. Newsflash. So when people, over the past 10 years, I've worked with tons of people, right, in the motivational speaking space. Some people are like, oh, I just can't. I can't. And I'm like, well, who told you that as a kid? Because that didn't come from nowhere. Like, your inner talk and your inner dialogue, that came from your childhood probably, or you went through some negative experiences and then they just slowly disheartened you and you were like, oh, I guess I'm always the girl that's this and I don't know. And then all of a sudden you realize what your thoughts, because thoughts create feelings, feelings create habits and behaviors, right? It's that triangle. So if you realize over time, if you tell yourself something over time, right? Like if I grew up in the household that I did, which is, Megan, anything is possible, I was fed that my whole childhood. So then I start to believe it, right? Because whatever you're around, you become your surroundings. Your top people that you talk to, you become it. So for me, I became my childhood. It's like anything is possible. I was like, okay, here we go. And that's what I became. So on the flip side, though, if I grew up in a household where my parents were like, you're ugly, just abusive, gnarly, I don't know what I would have become. That's really hard. You would have to be brave enough to push past that and to believe anything is possible, or two forks in the road. Do that or go down the path of like, oh, I guess I'm always going to be an addict like my parents and be poor and do all this shit. And that's hard. It's hard because both are a choice. You have to choose wisely, and both have repercussions and ripple effects. But for me, it's like, I feel like, yeah, just whatever you tell yourself, right? The two types of people. If you go around, you're always creating your reality, and we're always the director, author, producer of our life. And if you are not happy with what you have achieved at whatever age you are today, guess who it's up to change that? You. If you're not happy with your love life or your career or your financial income or anything, that's on you, no one else. Because you can either, anytime you put stuff out of your control, also, like if I were to blame, I hate my parents and blame you and blame that, you're also never taking accountability, because when you're focused on things outside of your control, you're always going to feel anxious and never take responsibility for your actions and for your life. But the moment you flip it to yourself and you're like, okay, I've got this, like I take responsibility for what happened to me, you're set free from all suffering and you're able to like move forward. And some people don't realize that, but it's just the truth. The moment you, like an I statement in therapy, right? Like, I feel upset because I blank, blank, blank. The moment you're like, oh, I feel this way and I feel this, you're like, oh, wait, I just set myself free. Because when I put my happiness in other people's hands, it doesn't really work. When I put my success in, it doesn't work. So if you go around your whole life blaming, oh, my parents did that, so I can't, they did that, and just blaming, you're not going to do much. But if you take accountability, you heal, you forgive, you become aware, and you go down that path, you're able to set yourself free from so many cycles of suffering and toxic fucking shit. And it just blows my mind, though, because then, Wayne Dyer became the man that he is today. Instead of, peeing on his dad's grave and just being like, I hate you, one day he was like, what is this doing for me? This is doing nothing for me. And then he just became this speaker, so powerful, talking about everything, happiness, manifestation. And unfortunately, he passed away. But like, that man became a legend. And to think that his story started with him being having so much hate and anger towards this man who probably was an alcoholic and probably was really difficult and very toxic. But guess what? We always will encounter people like that. It's just how you move forward and how you pivot. And that's all you can do, is just don't focus on them. Focus on what you're grateful for, what is going right. And then you've mastered life. When you've mastered your emotions, you have mastered your life.
I love that, Megan. I love everything you said today, like on this whole episode.
Yes.
100%, like, I'm with you.
Same wavelength. Yes.
Yeah. Totally. Dolores Cannon. Have you ever heard of Dolores Cannon?
No. What is it?
Dolores Cannon. She's like a, I guess she's like a spirit medium, psychic type lady.
Oh, no way.
She kind of like talked about the afterlife and all that stuff. And she kind of believes, or she says that once we fulfill our life purpose and we're able to manipulate the energy, that's like we served our purpose here on earth and we're able to go back home. But until then, like, we're going to keep like coming back to earth until we learn how to manipulate that energy.
It's true. And I've heard that, your last lifetime as a human often is like a fireworks show. The last firework is like, the biggest out with a bang. I've heard it's accumulation of your past lives rolled up into one. And so for me, I've actually learned in readings, this is my last lifetime as a human. So I've, someone said I've had 397 lives before this one.
What?
So yeah, my soul's been, they said my soul's been around since the 1400s. And I'm like, that makes sense. I feel like I've always been an old soul, but like she said, this is your last lifetime. And I was like, that makes sense. Cause I do feel like I'm in this lifetime, it's all the lessons I'm accumulating it to being a teacher and a motivational speaker for other people. So I feel like my soul has probably learned all its lessons and it's pretty wild.
That's cool. Yeah, Megan, back in the days, I used to watch Eric Thomas and stuff, and I used to be like, he's so cool. Like I want to be like him one day.
Yeah.
But then I started listening to like Bob Proctor and all that good stuff, and I kind of like pushed motivational type speaking to the back because I was like, man, that's just temporary motivation. Shit doesn't help people, right? The way you talk and the way you speak, I feel like it really helps to inspire changing people, where it's not temporary bullshit that's gonna get you pumped up for 20-30 minutes and then you're like, oh fuck, you know what I mean? Like you're leaving a like lasting impact. And
thank you.
I think that's incredible.
Thank you, Mo. I really appreciate that. I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but this has been so fun.
And I appreciate you so much. Do you want to leave your tags on where people can find you and how to connect with you?
Yeah. So you guys, for any of you listening, so you can follow me. I have the same handle on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Those are, I'd say, my 4 biggest platforms. So Instagram at Megan W. Gallagher. My last name is really long, so it's Gallagher. So Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. You guys can follow me, DM me, hit me up. I post all the time. Instagram, I would say, is the best way to get in contact with me. Just DM me. And I always say, keep it appropriate and kind, and I will respond back. But yeah, I'm super active on TikTok, all those platforms. And so anyways, you guys connect with me. I'm available to speak at colleges and Fortune 500 companies, any seminar, conferences. I am signed to multiple speaking bureaus. So like the Washington Speakers Bureau, like you can probably Google my name and stuff will pop up about my agents and how to contact them. And if, like I said, if you are a school, college, university, Fortune 500 company, seminar, expo, and you want a female speaker to talk on mental health,